All right, folks, we're live again. Welcome, Clay County, Florida, whoever else is watching. This is Ernie here with Science Freedom Florida. We are doing another video here in the garage with the new job and whatever. I spend a lot of my daytime hours just playing with the kids. We got to spend a great evening with the twins today. We went up to a local gaming shop and played a little bit of D&D and they got to experience playing with somebody other than Dad. They had a great time. It was a lot of fun. So here I am now that everybody's in bed and asleep, trying to keep it quiet because my wife says I have two modes. Either my voice blends in with the universe and nobody can hear me, or I'm too loud and thundering and everybody can hear me even though I'm not really actually yelling at anybody. So we're going to be out here. It was pointed out that you can hear that fire alarm beeping in the background. And then I forgot to take care of that this afternoon. I was going to put it up somewhere. Oh, there it goes. To where you can't hear it. Forgot to get to it. It's a fire alarm that came with the house. We've got our own fire alarms up that are way better. So we're all safe here. No big worries there. But I'll try to remember to get that fire alarm a little bit more quiet for future videos. Today we're on page 286. This is chapter 10 in the new textbook. And in this particular chapter, they are actually going to start hitting into evolution pretty hard and heavy. And they're going to start off by looking at some definitions. And then they're going to get into some of the older school ideas that led up to Darwin's evolution. We're going to handle some of the specific statements that the book makes, because that's really the big part of the analysis here, and then we're going to deal with some of the broader topics and definitions as we come to it. And I'm just taking this in the order that the book presents it, so if it sounds like it's some repetition, it probably is, but I think it's important that we cover it as the book covers it, because that's the analysis of this textbook and why it's faulty, why it's bad to have in our classroom. So we're going to start just at the very top as introduction, some questions about why there's so many kinds of living things, why there's so many species, that kind of thing. But down towards the end of that first paragraph, it says, the search for reasons for Earth's great biological diversity was aided in the 1800s when Charles Darwin proposed the theory of evolution by natural selection. And there's a problem with that. You don't propose theories unless it's that common definition that they were poo-pooing back in chapter 1. The idea of a theory in common parlance is oh, I have a theory. Well, now we have Charles Darwin proposing theories. It just was fully hatched as this full-blown theory with all of this stuff behind it. He didn't even start off with a hypothesis, and that's not scientific. And if it's a theory like the book is proposing, again, remember that's not falsifiable either. And so they just get to preach it, pretty much. So just wanted to point out that inconsistency here in the book. I like this little blurb they have over on the side. It's a reference to one of the state standards, and it kind of cracks me up that it's here. Let's see if I can get I'm not a fan of laptops. I'm more of a big PC guy, so that my big PC is down is killing me. But the state standard SC.912.N.1.3 recognize that the strength or usefulness of a scientific claim is evaluated through scientific argumentation, which depends on critical and logical thinking and active consideration of alternative scientific explanations to explain the data presented. It is amazing to me how hilarious that they print that right there, because everything that they considered only pointed toward evolution. And today they won't consider any alternative scientific explanations that isn't pointing to evolution. I have been doing physics since I began this. I've got a notebook. I've got when I handed it to the board, it was a notebook I handed to the board. It had over 50 objections according to physics and chemistry why evolution wasn't true. It didn't have anything to do with religion. Didn't have anything to do with the intelligent design movement or any of that stuff. It was just pure objection from known physical facts. And that's science that we're not allowed to bring up in the classroom because it contradicts evolution. That's what the superintendent said. And so for them to have this right here it angers me in a way, but it also just cracks me up because they're just hypocrites. They're just hypocrites. And I'm calling them on it. I'm going to keep calling them on it. And I mean, to their face, I'll say it. If they ever want to sit down and talk, this is what this is. This is the textbook that they want us teaching. And here it is right here in black and white on the opening page talking about evolution, the chapter that starts talking about evolution. And they're supposed to consider critical, logical thinking and active consideration of alternative scientific explanations. And it's just a load of triceratops poo. That's all it is. It's just one big pile of poo. Because it's not true. They're not going to do it. They will not entertain anything that is not evolution based. So it's kind of like a teenager just wants to say whatever. So moving on, early scientists proposed ideas about evolution, and then it talks about some of those guys coming up with the ideas first that led to Darwin coming up with his version. And then it defines evolution again. They've already defined it in chapter 1, but they're going to define it again. And they get a little bit closer to getting to the real definition. Okay, they get a little bit closer, but they still, it's not a good definition. Evolution is the process of biological change by which descendants come from different. Sorry. I got a little bit of a curve when I took the picture, so it's hard for me to read the last word here. It says, evolution is the process of biological change by which descendants come to differ from their ancestors. Okay. So I guess I evolved from my mom and dad because I'm different from them? I mean, I'm not my mom, I'm not my dad, I'm not a clone. I'm different from them. So is that evolution? Yeah, I need to put a lamp out here. Thanks. It's bright enough. I think people can see me with a laptop light and the phone light and the poor excuse for a garage light. But I'll consider something. Maybe get a lampstand or something. Thanks for the advice. Love you. But anyway, the definition that they provide for evolution, again, right here at the beginning, it isn't what is meant by evolution when anybody talks about it in any meaningful way. They're sitting here giving these non-definitions to the kids to try to ease them into it, to kind of bait and switch them, and then that's not what anybody really means when they talk about evolution. Evolution is about the arrival of all of the current diverse life today from a single common ancestor millions of years ago. That's what is meant by evolution. That's what everybody means when they talk about evolution. This other stuff about these little processes and these little tiny changes, a lot of people put it in terms of micro leads to macro evolution. Micro evolution is what some people say is adaptations and stuff. I read an article a while back and I agreed with it. I don't believe that microevolution is a good term because then it does attach it to macroevolution, to the big millions of years common ancestor thing. What we see today, what we can observe today in terms of changes within species or changes across kinds or however you want to say it, is qualitatively different. Not just quantitative. It's not just evolution, but on a smaller scale. It's qualitatively different than the rocks to man evolution. And so I don't use the term microevolution anymore. It's either adaptation based on genetics that already exist. Don't have to worry about mutation or any of that. The genes are already there. And then natural selection is observable and demonstrable, and don't have a problem with that. And you just don't have the millions of years. You don't have the time for the rocks to man evolution, and you don't have the genetic capacity to bring about the types of changes that they're talking about. And so this definition here is not up to snuff. So it says this concept had been discussed for more than 100 years before Darwin proposed his theory. Wait, we're still proposing theories. I thought we were supposed to propose hypotheses. But anyway, Darwin proposed his way that evolution was supposed to work. And then today, evolution is a central theme in all fields of biology. No, it's not. No, it's not. There is nothing that evolution brings to any other part of biology that has any meaning to it. I can study biomes, I can study habitats, I can study the behavior of animals, I can study the populations, the interactions, I can study the life of a cell, I can study the structure of a cell and how all that works, I can study how the body is able to defend itself, and I don't need evolution for any of that. Because all of that is demonstrable, observable, repeatable, scientific, and evolution is none of that. Evolution is not observable, it's not repeatable, it's not provable, it has no evidence at all. Zero. All it has is circular reasoning, assertions, wishful thinking, and the magic of these people who don't want to hold to the other paradigm because they have to give up certain aspects of their life. That's what it is. And so it's not a central theme, it's not a peripheral theme, it's just a fairy tale that somebody made up because they didn't like the alternative. And now we can't even talk about the alternative. We're just not allowed to talk about the alternative because for whatever reason they say they have claimed or taken over and said, well, that's just not scientific. Well, they don't get to say that. True scientists don't, one of the things that they talked about at the board meeting was David Campbell brought up flat earth. Well, what are you going to do, talk about flat earth? I talk about flat earth all the time. My physics classes, we talk about it. Let's bring it up. Let's talk about it. I don't mind talking about flat earth. I don't believe in it. But it's great critical thinking for the kids. You want to bring up the Hindu belief about the earth being stacked on a bunch of animals? Let's talk about it. There's nothing wrong with bringing up something that I, as a scientist, as a teacher, don't personally believe in and critically examining it with the students. And if we were really a free nation, I wouldn't even mind bringing up religion in the classroom and talking about that as it's compared to science. But you can't do that either. Land of the free, home of the whatever, because we're not standing up to these people. It goes on to start talking about Carolus Linnaeus, Swedish botanist, and he started coming up with a system for identifying what we know as taxonomy. The system that he brought in is still kind of used. It's the one we're kind of familiar with, but I know that in recent years, the last couple of decades, the biologists have started using a different kind of taxonomy than what we're used to. The relationships have kind of been redrawn a different way to better match their evolutionary doctrines, but we're still pretty familiar with the way that Linnaeus came up with it. Says, years into his career, Linnaeus abandoned the common thought of his time that organisms were fixed and did not change. He proposed instead that some might have arisen through hybridization, a crossing that could be observed through experimentation or experiments with varieties or species of plants. Well, wait a minute. You can hybridize between two species? Well, that's awesome, because the book goes right on and right after that, the very next sentence. A species is a group of organisms that are closely related and can mate to reproduce fertile offspring. So I guess if you have cross-species hybridization, they're not really two separate species, are they? Contrary contradiction after contradiction after contradiction in this textbook. And this is just the very first page of the evolution set. Just talking about evolution here in chapter 10. So anyway, my videos have been kind of long. That's the page. There's a couple more guys that we're going to examine tomorrow night, if I'm allowed to, time willing, that I can get in and do another video. If not, we'll get to it on Friday. But I'm going to cut it off here so I don't run too long. Got some other things I got to do tonight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please share this. Please get it out, especially if you're in Clay County. It's so important that this get in front of people. Whether they agree or not, at least start a conversation about it. Send them my way. My comments, these posts are always open to the public. Most of my Facebook comments are. I don't mind a civil discourse. That's one of the great things we're trying to teach at this new school at the St. John's Academy is you may disagree, but let's have a civil discourse about it. So if they want to come and disagree politely and keep it to the facts, keep it to the science, and not make it personal, I welcome them. That's great. But you got to share this and get it out. I also want to end again with a shout out to Latanya Peterson, to Ashley Gilhausen, Betsy Condon, the three ladies running for school board. Still early voting going on. I think we have 3 more days of that, and then that'll get cut off, and then the actual election is August 28th. So please get out and vote. Vote early if you can, and if you can't, show up on election day and let's support these ladies, and that way we can get some real critical thinking back in our schools. We can get some quality back in our schools, and we can turn the focus away from money and the progressive ideas that are creeping into this county, and we can get it back on course towards the more conservative values that Clay is known for. So again, thank you for watching, and keep learning.